What's the biggest bullet you've dodged? I almost had a baby with a guy who was secretly switching out my birth control pills. I was 26 and had been dating this guy Austin for about 8 months. Everyone loved him. My friends thought he was perfect. Always brought me coffee in the morning. Remembered little things I mentioned, talked about our future together. He even helped my mom fix her computer once. I'd been on the same birth control for 3 years. Same pharmacy, same time every month. Austin knew my routine because he'd drive me there sometimes. One Tuesday, I picked up my usual pack and something felt off. The packaging looked slightly different, but I figured the company changed their design or whatever. 2 weeks later, I started feeling terrible. Nausea hit me like a truck. I was exhausted all the time and crying over random commercials. My first thought was pregnancy, but that made no sense. I'd been religious about taking my pills. I bought a test at CVS and took it in their bathroom. Positive. I literally sat on that toilet crying for 20 minutes. When I finally came out, I went straight to the pharmacy counter where this older lady named Janet worked. She'd seen me every month for years. I was a mess, asking if my pills could have failed somehow. Janet looked confused and said something that stopped me cold. Honey, you haven't picked up your refill in over a month. That was impossible. I'd been taking pills every day. She pulled up my records on her computer. There was a gap in my pickups, then a completely different prescription. Same bottle design, but these pills had 0 hormones, basically sugar pills. I asked who picked them up. Austin's name was right there in the system. My hands were shaking. As I drove home, I went straight to Austin's dresser where he kept random stuff. Hidden behind some old phone chargers was a bottle of my real birth control pills. About 15 pills left. I counted back the dates. He'd been switching them for almost a month. When Austin got home from work, I confronted him with both bottles. He didn't even try to deny it. He just shrugged and said he wanted to speed things up with us having kids. Said I'd been dragging my feet about marriage and this would help me see what I really wanted, like I was some project he was managing. I told him I was pregnant and he actually smiled. Started talking about baby names and how we'd need a bigger apartment. I packed my stuff that night and stayed with my friend Maya. Austin kept texting me about prenatal vitamins and doctor appointments like nothing happened. 3 days later, I started bleeding heavily at work. Maya rushed me to the OR. They confirmed I was having a miscarriage. The stress and hormone crash from the pill switching had caused it. I spent the night in the hospital throwing up and crying. The worst part was Austin showing up at the hospital. He had the nerve to bring flowers and act like the grieving boyfriend. I told the nurse not to let him in my room. Through the door, I could hear him telling people it was just bad luck and we'd try again soon. I never pressed charges, but my doctor helped me document everything. She said cases like this were more common than people think. Austin tried calling for weeks, saying it was all a misunderstanding and he just loved me so much. Maya finally answered my phone and told him if he contacted me again, she'd post screenshots of his confession texts on every social media platform she could find. The miscarriage was horrible, but honestly, it saved me from being tied to someone who saw me as property instead of someone who saw me as property instead of a person. After that, I changed everything. I moved out of the apartment we'd been sharing and broke the lease. Even if it cost me money, I changed pharmacies. I got a new number. For a while, I even slept with the lights on because I kept imagining him standing outside my window, still smiling that fake, calm smile like nothing had happened. People asked why I didn't go to the police. Truthfully, I almost did. I still have the texts, the bottles, the records from the hospital and the pharmacy. My doctor told me if I changed my mind, she'd support me fully, but I was tired. Exhausted in a way I'd never felt before. Mentally wrecked, and I wanted to heal before I had to fight. So I focused on myself. Maya was a rock. She helped me put my life back together piece by piece, drove me to therapy, sat with me when I didn't want to be alone, bought me fuzzy socks, And ice cream when I didn't have the energy to go outside. It took months before I could even think about dating again. And when I did, I found myself second-guessing everything, every compliment, every "how was your day?" Like it might be part of a hidden agenda, but I kept going. I learned how to check my own pharmacy records online, how to spot red flags earlier, how to say no and mean it. Eventually, I told my story anonymously on a women's health forum. The replies shook me. Dozens of women said the same thing had happened to them, some by partners, some by roommates, even one by her own boyfriend's mother. It wasn't just me. That changed something in me. For the first time, I didn't feel ashamed. I felt angry in a clean, clear way. Angry enough to speak up. Not just for me, but for anyone else this could happen to. I still have the real birth control bottle with 15 pills left, not because I need it, but because it reminds me of how close I came to being trapped, and how lucky I was to escape. Story 2. My son-in-law disconnected my internet service, claiming it was an unnecessary expense. He told my daughter now she can't waste money shopping online or fall for scams. She agreed. It's for her own good. This cut me off from my friends and online support groups. But my neighbor gave me his Wi-Fi password, and the first email I sent was to my financial advisor detailing, I'm 67, a widow, and I live alone in Raleigh, North Carolina. My husband, Jim, passed away from lung cancer 5 years ago. He died slow. It was one of those long, painful goodbyes where the person you love disappears an inch at a time. When it was over, my daughter Megan said I shouldn't be alone. She and her husband Ryan had just bought a place in the suburbs with a big yard and space for the grandkids. So she helped me find a small apartment 10 minutes away. At first, I was grateful. I wanted to be close. I still wanted to be needed. Megan is my only child. We used to talk on the phone every day, and she'd stop by with the kids every weekend. But over the past 2 years, something changed. I don't even know exactly when it started. Maybe when Ryan got promoted. Maybe when Megan stopped calling unless it was about the kids or asking me to babysit. Ryan has always rubbed me the wrong way, too slick, always on. He's the kind of man who talks at you, not to you. He sells mortgages and he's got that fake polite way of explaining things that makes you feel like an idiot if you disagree. The kind of man who always needs to be right. I ignored it at first. I wanted to stay in my daughter's life, and if that meant putting up with Ryan, so be it. My routine was simple. I kept busy. I'm not the kind of person who just sits and waits to die. I learned how to use Zoom, joined a few support groups for widows, kept in touch with my cousins up in Pittsburgh, and even sold antique books on eBay. I've loved books since I was a little girl, and Jim and I used to go to estate sales and buy old collections for fun. I made a decent little side income doing that. It gave me a sense of purpose. Then one day last month, my internet just stopped working. I figured it was a service outage. I waited a day, still nothing. So I called Spectrum and gave them my info. The man on the phone put me on hold, then came back and said, "Ma'am, your service was canceled." I was confused. I told him I hadn't canceled anything. He said the account was closed by someone using my name and address with the last 4 digits of my social. That person told them I no longer needed the service and requested a full disconnection. I asked if they had a name. He said the call was placed by someone identifying as Ryan Collier. My son-in-law. I sat in silence for almost a minute. When I called Megan, I could tell she already knew. She didn't even act surprised. She said, "Ryan thought it was best. Mom, you spend too much time online, and it's not really healthy. We didn't want you to get scammed or waste money on those websites anymore." I told her I use the internet to sell books, to talk to people, that it's how I stay connected. She sighed and said, "We just think you should be more focused on the real world. It's a lot of screen time for someone your age. Honestly, it's for your own good." I was stunned, not just by what she said, but how she said it. Cold, like a nurse explaining to a patient that they've been moved to hospice care. Just calm dismissal. That night, I sat in my living room and cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I felt completely alone. They took away my connection to the outside world without even asking me. Like I was a burden, like I couldn't be trusted, like I was already fading away. 2 days later, my neighbor Pete knocked on the door. He's in his 50s, ex-army, quiet guy. He said, "You haven't been online in a while. Everything okay?" I told him what happened. He didn't say much at first, just nodded. Then he pulled out a slip of paper and handed it to me. My Wi-Fi password. He said, "Use it whenever you want. Don't let anyone isolate you." I almost cried again, but I held it in. I thanked him, then I plugged in the password. And the second I saw those little bars fill up, I went straight to my email and I wrote a long message to my financial advisor, Lori. I've been with her for over 12 years. She helped Jim and me with our estate planning. I told her everything about the internet, about Ryan, about Megan's attitude. I asked her to lock down all my accounts. I told her I wanted to revoke Megan's access to everything, medical, legal, financial. I told her to prepare paperwork for a new will, a new trust, and to remove Megan as power of attorney. Because here's what they don't know. They think I'm living off scraps. They assume I'm just surviving on a small pension and social security. What they don't know is that Jim was smart with money. He worked in accounting for 35 years. He bought 2 rental homes under a business LLC before the housing boom. After he passed, I inherited both. The LLC is still under my maiden name. They've been rented out and quietly building equity for years. We also had a brokerage account with a sizable investment portfolio, plus life insurance, $400. I haven't touched most of it. I still drive a 2011 Honda Civic. I use coupons. I wear the same coat I've had for a decade, but I am not broke and I am not stupid. I spent the next few weeks setting everything in motion. I updated all my passwords, changed my phone plan, created a new email account. I stopped talking to Megan, didn't respond to her texts. I told Pete to let me know if Ryan ever came sniffing around my building. I also reached out to a lawyer who handles elder abuse cases. I wasn't sure if this counted, but he said the way they cut me off from communication, accessed my accounts without permission, and treated me like a child, it could absolutely be part of a pattern. I started keeping notes, screenshots, dates, and times of conversations. I pulled bank statements and printed out years of clean, scam-free transactions to show I knew exactly what I was doing, because if they ever try to take control of my life, I'll be ready. They think I'm weak, that I need protecting, that I'm too old to fight back. They have no idea what I'm preparing. And I haven't even started yet. About 2 weeks after I cut off contact with Megan, she showed up at my door. No warning. Just knocked like everything was normal. I didn't answer, I just watched her through the peephole. She knocked again, then said through the door, "Mom, I know you're in there. We need to talk." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My hands were shaking. Eventually, she gave up and left, but not before sliding a note under the door. It said, "Please stop being stubborn. Ryan was only trying to help. Call me when you're ready to apologize." Apologize? That was the moment something in me snapped. After everything they'd done, she thought I owed them an apology. The next day, Pete came by and told me Ryan had shown up while I was out grocery shopping, asked the building manager if he could get into my unit to check on me. The manager said no, Pete had warned him already, but the fact that Ryan tried to get in at all, that was a clear escalation. So I called Lori, my advisor, and had her send me copies of all my account statements. I wanted full control, no shared access, no leeway. We started the paperwork to move everything into an irrevocable trust under my full control. No beneficiary access until death. No wiggle room. I also met with my lawyer again. He recommended I file a notice of revocation of power of attorney and have it delivered to Megan in writing. I signed it right there in his office. A week later, I had a certified letter sent to Megan's house. I can only imagine her face when she opened it. It must have hit her hard because that same night, she called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered thinking it might be the school or a neighbor. As soon as I said hello, she started in, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Her voice was sharp cold. "Why are you doing this? Do you have any idea how this makes us look?" I said nothing. She kept going. "Ryan was just trying to help. You sit at home all day doing God knows what online. We were worried. You don't talk to us. You isolate yourself. You could get hurt, scammed. I've never been scammed." I cut in, "But I have been betrayed." There was silence on the line for a few seconds. Then she said, "If you keep acting like this, don't expect us to include you in our lives anymore. Don't expect to see the kids." And just like that, she weaponized the grandkids. I didn't respond. I just hung up. After that, things got quiet. For a while, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe they got the message. Maybe they'd finally leave me alone. But I was wrong. About 3 weeks later, I got a notice from my health insurance provider saying someone had attempted to log into my online portal. 3 failed password attempts. I don't have proof it was Ryan, but given the timing and how little else I used that login for, I knew it wasn't random. I started locking everything down, freezing credit, setting up two-step verification on every account. I called the pharmacy and told them to require a password for any pickup under my name. I left nothing to chance. Then came the real punch. Lori called me on a Monday morning, sounding off. She said, "Margaret, did you authorize your daughter to inquire about your IRA holdings?" My stomach dropped. "No." "Why?" "Because she called, claimed to be helping you manage things, asked for a full breakdown of the account. We didn't give her anything, of course. We flagged it and called you." I was shaking. That wasn't just overstepping. That was financial impersonation, possibly illegal. I called my lawyer again. We started documenting everything: calls, letters, access attempts. He told me if it continued, I could pursue a protective order or a civil claim for undue influence and elder abuse. I wasn't ready to go that far yet, but we were getting close. Meanwhile, I kept to myself, ran my bookshop quietly, spoke to my online support groups who offered me strength and ideas. And one of them, another older woman in a similar situation, told me about something she did that stuck with me. She rewrote her will, left nothing to her daughter, and donated the entire estate to a nonprofit that supports women fleeing financial abuse. That planted a seed, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't owe Megan or Ryan anything. Not the houses, not the money, not the memories. If they could turn on me this fast over control, what would they do if I got sick or lost a step? They already decided who I was, some fragile half-senile burden who needed to be protected by having her independence stripped away. They made that decision without asking me. They made it together. And now I was going to make some decisions of my own. I kept my head down for a while, focused on small things, organizing my book inventory, rejoining my online bridge group, getting back into a normal routine. I try not to dwell on Megan or Ryan. I told myself I had done enough by cutting them off, protecting my assets, and legally removing them from my affairs. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. One morning in late April, I was going through the mail when I found a thick envelope from a local law firm. At first, I thought maybe it was junk, some mass mailing, but when I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was a petition for temporary guardianship filed by Megan. She was trying to have me declared legally incompetent. The petition claimed I was suffering from memory loss, paranoia, and delusional thinking, and that I had cut off contact with family members who were only trying to help her. It said I was vulnerable to online scams and had made uncharacteristic and potentially dangerous financial decisions. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She was using my own silence as proof I'd lost my mind. The final paragraph was what gutted me. It said, "Petitioner requests temporary guardianship to assist with housing, financial, and medical decisions. While the court evaluates the need for a long-term care plan, in plain English, they wanted control of my home, my accounts, and my body. That's when I understood this wasn't about the internet or screen time or scams, it was about my money. They wanted the trust, the properties, the investments they wanted to lock me away and live off what Jim and I spent 40 years building. The next day, I met with my attorney. He was furious. He said I had every right to respond and fight it. I passed every cognitive test he put in front of me. I had documents, a paper trail, witnesses. He scheduled an emergency hearing for the following week. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was humiliated. But I wasn't going to let them win. We prepared everything. My doctor's letters, financial records, digital communications showing I was active and coherent. Pete agreed to testify. So did my financial advisor, Lori. So did two members of my widows group I'd met online and eventually befriended in person. But then just days before the hearing, I got a call that flipped everything again. It was Megan's mother-in-law, Denise. We'd never been close, but I always thought she was decent. She asked if she could meet for coffee. I agreed out of curiosity. More than anything, she showed up at the diner looking tired and nervous. She got straight to the point. Margaret, I don't want to be involved, but I need to tell you something. Ryan's been talking to people about selling one of your rental properties. He said it's just a matter of time. He told them you wouldn't even realize it's gone. She kept going. He also bragged that Megan's cleaning up your accounts. Said it's about time you gave something back for everything she's done for you. That's when I understood the full picture. They weren't waiting for me to die. They were planning to erase me, erase my freedom, erase my voice, erase everything Jim and I worked for. Denise looked down at her coffee and said quietly, I just thought you should know before it's too late. Too late. No, they were the ones who were running out of time. Because what they didn't know, what they never even bothered to ask, was that I had already made some changes of my own. I had quietly signed over power of attorney to my lawyer, not for control, but for protection. I'd also updated my trust to name specific nonprofit beneficiaries in the event of any attempt to seize control of my estate by force or fraud, meaning if they pushed too hard, if they crossed a certain legal line, they wouldn't get a dime, and something told me that line was coming fast. The guardianship hearing was set for a Tuesday morning in Wake County Court. I hadn't slept much the night before. I kept pacing my living room, going over everything in my head. What they said about me, what they tried to do behind my back. How easily my own daughter believed I could be pushed aside, like I didn't matter anymore. When I walked into that courtroom, I wasn't scared. I was angry, focused. I wore Jim's old wedding band on a chain around my neck and reminded myself that I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for the life we built, for the woman I'd been before they tried to turn me into a dependent. Confused Megan and Ryan were already sitting at the table across from mine. Megan looked polished, Ryan looked cocky, like this was already decided. They didn't even make eye contact with me. The judge, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, asked for opening statements. Their lawyer started talking about concerns for Margaret's well-being, citing my social withdrawal, paranoid behavior, and unusual financial activity. He said Megan only wanted to protect me. Then it was our turn. My lawyer calmly handed the judge a packet 40 pages thick. It had medical letters confirming I was in full mental health. It had emails between me and my advisor discussing routine financial moves. It had screenshots from my online groups where I led weekly sessions and helped other widows manage their estates. Then I stood up. I didn't cut off my daughter because I was confused, I said. I cut her off because she cut off my internet without asking. She tried to take away my life one piece at a time, and now she's trying to take the rest. I turned and looked straight at Megan. You didn't come to check on me when I needed help. You didn't offer support. You made decisions for me, not with me. And when I pushed back, you tried to call it a mental breakdown. That's not love, that's control. Megan blinked first, her face turned red. Ryan looked less sure of himself now. Then Pete testified, told the judge how Ryan had tried to sneak into my building without my knowledge, how he'd asked the manager for access to my apartment just to look around. That got the judge's attention. Then Lori testified. She told the court how Megan had called pretending to help manage my accounts, asking detailed questions about my holdings, and how it raised serious red flags. The judge took about 20 minutes to review everything. When she came back, she didn't mince words. There is no evidence that Margaret lacks capacity. There is, however, evidence of coercion, overreach, and inappropriate attempts to access her private information. Petition denied. It was over, but I wasn't done. Outside the courtroom, Megan tried to approach me. Her voice cracked as she said, "Mom, I was just scared. You've been different." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, I've been alone, and instead of helping me, you tried to take over. You let your husband turn you into someone I don't recognize." Then I walked away. I didn't hug her. I didn't say goodbye. 3 days later, I signed the final papers with my lawyer. I donated one of the rental homes to a nonprofit that provides emergency housing to older women facing financial abuse. The other I sold and used the money to endow a scholarship in Jim's name at his old community college. My trust now goes to a list of charities, none of which bear Megan's name. I rewrote my will and filed it with the court. Megan receives one item, the photo of her and me from her high school graduation. I wrote a note on the back. "This is who he used to be. I hope one day you find your way back to her, but I won't be waiting." Ryan, he doesn't get anything, not even a name mention. Months passed. Megan tried to call. I didn't answer. I let the silence do what it needed to do. I stayed close to the people who stood by me. Pete, Lori, the women in my support group. I started taking classes at the senior center, even taught a few sessions on estate planning for older women. I still live alone and I'm still sharp, and I am free, not because someone gave me permission, but because I took it back. And when I sit at my kitchen table reading emails from the women I've helped, I feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. They thought they were saving me from myself. What they didn't know was I'd already saved myself from